Hi beautiful ladies, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk to you about what to do when you miss your old self. Sometimes when you embark upon a new journey, you're looking to improve yourself, you're looking to level up in your career, your business, you're looking to get married, whatever the goal is. Sometimes we achieve our goal, but then we end up kind of hitting a spot in life where we don't feel ourselves. So even though you achieve the thing that you were working so hard to achieve, you kind of have this nostalgia for your old self. And sometimes it can also bring about sadness because it's like you recognize that even though you've achieved what you wanted to achieve, you're not completely yourself. There are aspects of yourself that you miss. Maybe there are aspects of yourself that you feel as if you've lost along the way, and you feel as if those traits and those characteristics had you at a place where maybe you were more confident, maybe you had more of a zest for life, you were more passionate about things in life, and now you're kind of just a shell of yourself despite you achieving what you wanted to achieve. And this is common again when you go through life-changing events such as getting married, becoming a mother, building your career or business, or even going through a depression, or simply, you just get busy. All of these things can alter your life course and cause you to long for your former self if you lose track of those defining characteristics that made you who you are. And this is because these new ways of life, they force you to adopt a new identity in order to adapt and grow into your new role, which would then, of course, cause you to lose sight of the things that once gave you joy. And so sometimes people end up questioning their life choices and say, did I make the right choice in going to this university? Did I make the right choice in deciding to become a mother? Did I make the right choice in moving to this city? And it's not that you didn't make the right choice. It's not that these things are bad. In that process, again, you lost those positive characteristics that probably even motivated you to want to level up and become someone new and improve yourself, and probably even contributed to you even being qualified to go after these new things in life. And so sometimes you can find yourself yearning for your bad self, quote unquote, where you find yourself yearning for your former bad self because you missed the positive aspects, you missed those strong characteristics that made you alluring, that gave you the zest of life. So maybe back then you were loud and argumentative, but you were also super confident and you didn't people please. And now you find yourself in a way where, for whatever reason, you feel like you have to make yourself smaller to be more accommodating to people, to be less intimidating, to be less threatening, especially as an exotical. Across the spectrum of exoticalness, a lot of times we find ourselves having to make ourselves smaller in order to make other people around us feel comfortable, whether that's the Black community with unambiguous Black women, or whether that's non-Black women of various races. We need to appear less threatening a lot of times because, let's face it, we are social creatures, and so we have a desire to form social connections, but also so that we can be able to navigate society and be able to social climb, right? It's kind of like a not wanting to outshine the master. So say, for example, you're in a work setting and your manager is super intimidated by you. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to find a way to make yourself more palatable to that manager so that you don't find yourself getting demoted, fired, held back, because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, they hold the power in this situation and can determine your fate within that organization. And so it's like you either play the game within that organization by, making yourself more palatable, by not outshining the master, so that you can appear as not as a threat, but still finding a way to let your strengths shine and make your manager look good, and then also make yourself look good and be able to climb the ladder. Or you decide, okay, maybe this container, maybe this organization is too small for me. Let me go somewhere where I can thrive and not be suppressed. And both choices are equally acceptable. But if you're not careful, you can find yourself stripping away. If you don't have the right strategy, you're not self-aware, you don't have a coach, mentor, or you simply just don't have access to resources like YouTube, books, whatever, to teach you how to navigate these dynamics, you can find yourself stripping your strengths and your good, strong characteristics completely, and then you find yourself being less confident and more of a accommodating people pleaser just because that one interaction led you to believe that you had to make yourself small for people in society in general in order to survive. And I say this because sometimes we think that if we encounter one individual who is intimidated by us, we've been socialized to believe like, okay, I need to not make myself small, but I need to make myself a little bit more palatable so that I can still be in this space. We then, due to lack of knowledge, we then apply that to all situations where we encounter people who are intimidated by us. But that doesn't apply. If someone is on the same playing field as you, or they are not the master, they do not hold the cards of power in your social dynamic, you should, number one, not only not suppress yourself, but you should let your light shine even brighter, because you are competing with that person in some degree for whatever it is in that social setting. And so if you are not careful, again, you find yourself losing those aspects that made you confident, and then you find yourself missing your old self, which is why a lot of people, when they level up or they improve on themselves, a lot of times people, if they hit a weak spot in life, maybe loneliness because there's no one else like you who's going on a similar same journey, they find themselves reverting and going back to the old habits that they had before, even though they know within themselves, like, listen, I did not like the life that I lived back then, which is why I wanted to leave in the first place. But this loneliness or this desire to kind of readopt those characteristics that I had before that made me more vibrant, that yearning is stronger than what I have achieved to date. And it's not that you miss all of the attributes of the past, including the negative. It's just that you simply miss the strong skills or characteristics that you have forgotten. And if you're not careful, again, you can find yourself going back completely to your former self. But then with that, a lot of times people become discouraged when they fall into bad habits again, and they may give up on leveling up, thinking that it's not worth it, thinking that it didn't work. You're just going to rebound and, I'm just going to give up and stay where I'm at, rather than identifying the positive attributes that they lost that they may be nostalgic for. And it's similar to having addiction. Like people who have substance abuse issues, like they'll get clean and then kind of miss aspects of their former selves, and then find themselves going back to those negative habits to try to regain those characteristics. But then they get discouraged because they don't realize like, oh, I fell into this entire trap again, instead of simply just pinpointing the positive characteristics that made me a strong individual. Because even though you may have a past, we all have a past, maybe that past was negative and really dark, but you still have positive characteristics that can make you a good, strong person. You just have to know how to refine yourself, which means that you burn and take away all of the negative aspects so that you can completely have the positive aspects that will make you a strong, wholesome person. And maybe maybe you weren't someone who had a past. Maybe you had strong positive attributes. Maybe you were highly involved in your community. Maybe you served on boards and committees. Maybe you had an acting career, I don't know. But then you got married and had children, and you had to put away those characteristics that made you strong and competitive in your field. And now you feel like, yes, I wanted to be a mother and a wife, but I've lost aspects of who I am, and now I kind of just don't feel motivated to be either. It's about not losing focus, what I'm trying to say, of the true essence of who you are. So while you strive to become better, while you strive to learn new things, you should also hold on to and cultivate those characteristics that are innate within you, that are embedded within you, that made you who you are. That's essentially who you are. And a lot of times this involves you going back to the things that you enjoyed as a child. So arguably, depending on your upbringing, but usually children are more confident than adults because they're more fearless. They don't understand how life works. They don't understand the dynamics of image and being judged. And so kids are more willing to show up as their authentic selves, flaws and all, because they don't fear being judged and put down by others. They haven't reached that part of life yet. And so that's why you'll see kids tap into what they like more. Like you'll see a little girl will spend hours playing with her dolls, or spend hours twirling in the mirror, pretending to be a ballerina, because those are the things that she likes. Or she'll spend hours painting or sculpting something artistic. Go back to those things that gave you joy and that you spent hours doing when you were a child. And I know that some children don't have that experience because they were raised in not so great environments, but there has to be one thing, even if you were not as deeply invested in it, but it still gave you joy. Find that one thing that gave you joy and revisit it. Revisit that, and you'll start to realize that you have a newfound zest in life because you've reconnected with something, a passion, a hobby that kind of took you away from the realities of life. We all need an escape from the day-to-day to help us keep going, because the day-to-day can be stressful. The day-to-day can obviously, be positive and good. It can help you earn a living, but it can also be stressful. And so you need hobbies, practices, whatever, to allow your inner child to come out and be happy. And maybe there were things that you liked, but you couldn't explore it because maybe lack of resources growing up, or maybe you were just simply told, oh, those are silly little things, focus on your schoolwork only. Now is your opportunity. And if you still don't have the money to tap into things, YouTube is free. If you like ballet, you can find ballet lessons for beginners online. A lot of community centers, they have free resources, especially through the library. Public libraries are such a blessing, and a lot of times the resources are free. So if you can get connected, especially if you live in a city like New York City or LA, a major city, tap into those resources that are free. Or even if like your alma mater, if you live close enough, a lot of times they have free or low cost programming for alumni, their alumni network. So, tap into those and just rediscover new things. Okay, we are not meant to be robots who just do one thing. I'm a mother only. I'm a wife only. I'm a businesswoman only. Like, the key to success is really having multiple identities that you can switch from so that you can have a refreshed perspective and allow those other identities to rest and replenish, so that when you go back to them, you feel motivated and encouraged, and you have the strength and the willpower to show up fully in those spaces. And this is also why it's important, just as an aside, to decenter men, even as a married woman. And I say decenter men specifically because a lot of women lose themselves after they get married, and they lose themselves even more after they have children. And then they start to resent their partners, and they start to resent their children. And it's not that, they're married to a bad man or they hate their children. It's just that they hate the fact that they've lost themselves, and they think that it's because I'm a wife and a mother why I've lost myself. When in reality, you lost yourself because you lost sight of who you were before you got married. So that should never change. You should always center yourself first, prioritize your well-being first, even if you have children, so that you are making sure that your needs are taken care of and that you're replenished. And then by extension, when your cup is full, then you have the capacity to take care of your family. You have the capacity to take care of your children, your husband, whatever. And this doesn't apply to men who don't do anything for you. This doesn't apply to men where you're having to do 50-50, or you're having to do everything and raise the kids. If you're in that situation, this doesn't apply to you. You need to get rid of that man first because he's a liability and not an asset. But if you are with someone who is supportive, who is caring, who takes care of his family, he's whatever, find a way to rediscover and cultivate the things that you liked before you were married or before you were a mother. And it's not impossible. There are many women who they prioritize themselves first, whether it's having to readjust your schedule where you wake up a little bit earlier and do your workouts, or you prioritize every Saturday afternoon is me time and me time only. Anything that you need, go and ask your father, or you set things up in advance so that they can have access to that while you're doing me time. That may involve you going on girls' trips or just going on solo trips by yourself so that you can recoup. Whatever it may be, it may require some planning, some coordinating with your spouse, getting a sitter, maybe if you're a single mother, but it's not impossible to do. We always prioritize things that are important to us. If you can find time to watch an episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta every week, you can find time while you're watching that to plan to make a schedule so that, you have some me time. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this one down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.